Anyway, yeah, thanks man, really appreciate it, thank you. Hello? Okay, yeah, so I got the locks replaced like you told me to do. Did you find the stalker?
We've checked the premises and everything seems to be in order.
Are you sure there is nothing? I mean, he's been harassing me for months over this whole video series I have going on.
Really? You're on that red tube thing?
It's YouTube, actually.
Oh, so you're like some kind of big shot, eh?
Well, I won't say a big shot, but I do have over 6,000 subscribers.
Only 6? Sir, I assure you I do not think a stalker would waste his time on a nobody like you.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Anyway, please refrain from calling us unless it's something dire. Good luck with your porn career.
Thank you? Okay. Guess that does it. Let's see you break into my apartment now, bitch. I should probably have done this before I sat down making a video that took me over a month to do. I'm not very bright. Ha! It was really just a matter of time really before I would eventually get asked by a friend to review his comic. Don't get me wrong, I've had plenty of people asking me to review their friend's comic, or I've reviewed comics and then later befriended the person behind it. As you guys probably already know, I was once approached by the podcast of Anime Outsiders for an episode, and this is where I first met the host of the podcast as well as the creator of today's comic, Cody Bayer. And as buddy as Cody and I are, I doubt you'll find two people disagreeing with each other as much as we do. Cody is a very opinionated guy and a very passionate guy, which you'll quickly find out if you look at his Twitter and listen to his podcast, which I'd be a huge hypocrite if I shat on, cause shit, I got a YouTube career simply based around having an opinion. Oh well, I say career, but yeah, you know. But yeah, Cody has a lot of opinions, and I probably disagree with 99% of it. We disagree in animes, video games, and even comics. Heck, I'm almost furiously disagreeing with Cody's sentiment that comics reflect on the author and their personality. Well, sure, there are some of the more opinionated comics out there, such as So You're a Cartoonist, Assigned Male, and Scandinavia and the World. And then there are the more transparent comics, such as Sonichu, Elseron Chronicles, and Suicide for Hire, where it's obvious that it's a reflection on the writer and their thoughts. But I also strongly believe that many writers are smart enough to distance themselves from their work and simply make something that is in no way related to them at all. So yeah, I doubt there's a single person on earth I disagree as much with as Cody, but I still respect his opinions, and I'm not gonna lambaste him for having these opinions, cause he's still a super cool dude. I'll be honest, I'm just super butthurt cause he kicked my ass in King of Fighters 14 and he thinks Gurren Lagann is stupid. This calls for blood!
Heard like whispers in the dark? Oh shit.
Oh, okay. Fuck you!
Style, it's ancient ninjutsu. And,
fuck everything!
And concept and all that, and I think the story too was done
by
the guy with the
Fuck you! So what is Cloudscratcher? Well, it's a comic about the crew of an airship called Cloudscratcher and their adventures. In this world, the evil serpent race is in constant war with the other races. It is when this war is about to hit critical mass when the serpent race wish to napalm bomb the cat people's capital that a young snake girl, Ixia, defects from the snake military to warn the cats about the attack. What then follows is the Cloudscratcher trying to help their newfound friend in combating the evil serpents.
As far as the plot goes, this is really good. It's nice, it's simple, and it immediately hooks you.
A thing I greatly appreciate about the comic is its cheeky and clever name references to things such as the capital of the cats being Felisburg. You know, cause cats are felines. The serpent's napalm bomb is called Hellfire Venom, which is an obvious reference to snakes' venom. Heck, I could even be inclined to think that the name Cloudscratcher is a reference to cats and dogs scratching, which are the primarily crew of the ship. It's a nice naming convention that I feel works for the sake of the comic's feel. It also makes it easy to remember.
Gotta admit, it's a little hard for me to process that the same dude who told me about shitting dick-nibbled Hermtars is the same dude who made this super cute thing. It's almost like you can distance yourself from the comic you're making, Cody.
A nice compliment to give Cloudscratcher is also how easily it goes from scene to scene. Everything works naturally and every scene transitions easily into the next. You never feel like you missed out on something, nor that it's overstayed its welcome. The comic also really lets every character shine in their own way. It never just stays on a single character, but bounces all around without getting confusing, which I feel is a testament to Cody as a writer, because you kinda have to have a firm grasp of when a reader is going, okay, I could do with some change of scenery now. An example of this done wrong is pretty much any anime movie based on a shonen series I can think of. No, I do not care about the plot, cause I know it has no agency. Just show me the fight scenes that you make prettier due to the higher budget. Oh god, stop talking! Naruto, why the fuck did you name your kid Boruto, you fuck? Stop talking! Stop talking!
But yeah, I'm sure we've all seen or read something where you just want the story to follow one thing or a specific person, and the story then switches to show you something you don't care about. It's the fucking worst.
In my Grim Tales from Down Below review, I tried to make a joke that I don't think I articulated properly, most of all because people didn't seem to catch on to me being sarcastic. I said that today's cartoons were super weird and stupid while drawing parallels to the cartoons that were showing when I was a child. And the joke was supposed to be that the cartoons I watched as a child were leaps and bounds more fucked up than today's cartoons. But people honestly took this as me thinking that modern cartoons were much more weird than the ones I watched as a kid, despite one of the parallels I made sure to use was fucking Ren and Stimpy. I guess I should include a super obnoxious bazinga and forced Big Bang Theory studio laughter in the future whenever I'm being sarcastic.
Fuck you! Where was the joke? He just fucking named a bunch of shit! How is this comedy? Why are you laughing? Go for it. Why?
Anyway, the reason why I bring this up is because there were certain cartoons I watched as a kid that weren't as out there and were super freaking dope. I'm talking about Chip and Dale, DuckTales, Darkwing Duck, and even Tailspin.
I was one of the cool kids because I knew the entire rap part of the intro to Tailspin. It's kind of weird how that doesn't really earn you street cred when you're 27 years old.
Cloudscratcher is made to be in the same vein as these cartoons. In fact, if you read the FAQ, you'll find that it's an homage to these cartoons, and even the reason why there's no blood or cussing in it is to make it just like them. These super interesting adventures made by a lovable cast usually confronting against some sort of evil villain time and time again and escaping peril in one way or another. Seriously, if I have to tell you the formula of a 90s cartoon like that, then you're either too young to listen to all my swear words or just didn't really watch these episodes. Cloudscratcher works much like an homage to these cartoons, and it shows. You get the lovable cast, the adventure, the easily recognizable villains and heroes, as well as peril without being excessive and violent.
Let's be honest here, Chip and Dale would be a very different show if there at any point was a villain that was just like, "Ha-ha, Chip! Now I'm gonna hate fuck Dale in the mouth till he's in a coma and you cannot stop me! Ma!"
There is, however, one area in which Cloudscratcher is hurt by the fact that it tries to copy these types of cartoons, and it has to do with its pacing. The pacing of these cartoons is typically very energetic. Stuff always happens, most of all because children are very quick to lose the plot if too much dialogue happens. So you usually have a joke, some slapstick humor or drama having to keep the children invested and hooked. And this is where the main issue with Cloudscratcher lies. It is one of these cartoons but made for adults. It's something I like to call tonal schizophrenia. The plot is very kid-friendly. You have the obvious villain that the heroes have to triumph over and a world they have to save. But then you have talks about politics, espionage, and long talks where nothing really happens. You have hardcore racism, child soldiers, redacted information, and even the first threat that the Cloudscratcher crew has to oppose is like Napalm 2.0. Cloudscratcher clearly is made as something that everyone can enjoy, but due to its pacing and some of its themes, it comes up short of being what it's trying to homage to. It makes it so it becomes a jack of all trades, yet a master of none.
It's a comic that appeals to those of us who has watched these cartoons before as children. But if time had stood still for us.
Let me make a pretty modern example to explain what my issue is and why it exists. Not long has passed since the hit game Persona 5 came out, and a lot of people have already picked up on the difference in tone it has compared to its predecessor. Persona 4 was about a murder in a small village, while this one is a lot more focused around people's distorted desires and changing a government that's corrupted to the core. Persona 4's story is very much for teens. It addresses themes and conflicts we as teens at that point will naturally understand and easily relate to. If you show Persona 5 and its more mature and some would say more dry themes and conflicts to the very same people at the very same time, they'd easily find Persona 4 more interesting. It appeals to them more. But what then if you add, say, 8 years to them? Suddenly Persona 5's theme and conflicts appeals more to the very same people because they've grown up. The thing we liked is still there and it's still addressing the very same people, but it also understands that these very same people are now older and their interests have matured in turn. It's no longer as much about discovery about ourselves, but rather ourselves in the society we live in. If you look at Cloudscratcher, yes, it is very much a comic for the people who understood and appreciated the old 90s cartoons, but it's still a comic made for the same demographic who'd watched that type of cartoon the time it came out, and at the same time has a pacing and some elements that you would have to be an adult to appreciate.
Now, I'm not saying this particular demographic doesn't exist, the people who want a childish cartoon that appeals to the adult. But it again feels like it's stuck between two really good things and instead settled on something okay. I mean, look at the reboot of Samurai Jack. It was children who watched it then, and now it's back again, same thing, just more violent, more appealing to the same demographic.
A major thing this comic's writing has skipped and needs work, however, is setting up the threat of the serpents. Now I'm sure you all know the 3 little piggies and the wolf story. You know, the story of the wolf who wants to eat the pig, so they each barricade themselves in their homes. The pig's house that's made of hay gets blown away and the pig's eaten, and the same thing happens to the pig with the wooden house. Then, only after these 2 piggies have become a lovely snack, does the wolf try and take on the 3rd piggy, who has barricaded himself in a stone house. And then the wolf blows and blows and blows like its name was Annabelle Peaks, but the stone walls of the house don't budge at all. Eventually the wolf gets so tired that the pig can go out and kick the shit out of the wolf. Now, why do I bring this up? It's because it is due to the failure of the first 2 pigs that we are able to appreciate the victory of the 3rd. Because we saw what would happen to someone who is ill prepared, we get a better understanding of the victory of the 3rd pig. Cloudscratcher doesn't really have this. Like at all. The very first time we see the serpents is on the very first page, and here they're getting super easily owned by the Cloudscratcher crew to the point of the serpents seeming like freaking chumps.
Wow, what a threat. That's up there with threatening YouTube comments and a particular annoying acne on your inner thigh.
Now, I know that it's later talked about how the serpents took down various cities and even countries from the sound of it, but we don't really have anything to compare them to. Like, yeah, the serpents took down the capital of the pigs, but who's to say the pigs didn't just pull a France and rolled over and gave up at the first sign of opposition? We never established the threat of the serpents, we only hear hearsay and stuff. Even the big baddie Borsax, who's a freaking war hero and a master strategist, never has a single plan that works out. Like, these are not threats, they're like the freaking goons hanging out next to Rita in Power Rangers.
Like, I know I keep using this example, but why do you think you see the villain of horror movies always kill people at the beginning of the movie? It's to determine, this is our villain, this is what he'll do, and here's some boobs for you teenagers to stay invested.
All in all, the writing of Cloudscratcher is great, but it's a little underwhelming. There's nothing that really just makes you go, oh fuck yeah, or oh my god, that's hilarious. Well, one scene maybe. It's there, it's good, and it's a great read, but nothing that really knocked me on the butt, which kinda surprised me because talking with Cody, he's shown me time and time again that he knows what he's talking about. That said, the comic does find a good pace and its energetic feel once you're about 300 pages in, and there it is hilarious and a fun read. But that is 300 pages in. Up to that point, it more feels like Cody wanted to just establish the world and its situation, but forgot to make it as entertaining as the rest of the comic.
But with that said, my god is the rest of this comic entertaining.
Sometimes it feels more like the whole reason why Cloudscratcher is for kids is because it's a get out of jail free card for various mistakes, but with how much exposition and adult stuff the comic has, it feels like a weird thing to have. Like, you'll see some characters dodging bullets by using advanced play maneuvers, and in the very same chapter have Ixie and Felix be held at gunpoint, and I couldn't make this shit up even if I wanted to, but they escape by, again, not kidding, talking to one another, have Felix climb up on Ixie's back, have Ixie walk, with Felix on her back, over to the edge of the platform they're on, and then jump off. And before you ask, no, they weren't going to take anyone as hostage, and very much wanted them dead.
Cody, I know we're all buddy-buddy, but that is arguably the most super pants on head, utterly, completely high-functioning, stupidly retarded way I've ever seen anyone getting out of being held at gunpoint. Just walking away. The fuck?
While it sometimes feels like this get out of jail free card, it never feels like Cody wants to use it. It feels more like a safety net than anything. Like, hey, Cody, how does this thing make sense? And then Cody could, but he's not gonna, cause I honestly believe he's better than that, say, no, shh, it's a cartoon, shut up. I actually think Cody might be too good a writer to work on something like this, and I know that sounds weird, but bear with me here. It's actually cool because I can compare two characters of this very comic to prove my point. Felix is a star mechanic and the protagonist of the story, and he can both deconstruct and construct almost everything in a matter of seconds. You see this by having him build stuff and take things apart at lightning speed. You see this, 2 or 3 times, and you establish this trait about Felix. Now look at this dude. Has this dude's name been said yet?
Nope.
Anyway, if we look at this guy, our first introduction to him has 3 pages worth of him talking about the government leading a guy on with false and redacted information. Stuff we've already been shown and had repeated by a different character. And the dude who's explaining all of this explains all of this again. Now, I get it's to show he's on top of this and maybe even a step ahead, but this is not the type of conveyance you want in a story like this. Had it been a Tom Clancy espionage thriller, then sure, but this is a cartoon comic. We need energy, stuff needs to happen. Having this guy for a third time covering a subject we already know about in heavy details like this is not gonna appeal to the people who'd watch this cartoon. It's fine if it touches on what we already know super briefly and adds extra things on top of it, preferably with visual cues. But just having a dude standing and talking to his secretary isn't good conveyance in a cartoon.
To show you what I mean, I'm gonna take a copyright strike or whatever for the team and show you a clip from Secret of Nim. The timer will restart every time there is something to break up the information flow. That in turn will keep the viewer interested so it doesn't seem like a constant never-ending flow of information.
Oh, thank goodness. I'm so glad you're home.
You confounded machine. You never know when it's going to up and blow.
Yes. I don't suppose you would remember me.
Yes, you're Mrs. Brisby. And I'm sorry about your husband's death. Now, if you'd excuse me.
Mr. Ages!
Great Jupiter, woman, what do you want?
Mr. Ages, I know you don't like visitors, but this is an emergency. Please.
Madam, that is an emergency.
Oh, Mr. Ages, my son Timothy is so sick.
Timmy? The one with the spider bite? Oh, just give him some pip-cicero.
No, he's sick with a fever.
Well, I suppose I could fix up something.
Oh, thank you.
Follow me, but don't touch anything. Understand? Oh, where that?
I do appreciate it.
Just how high is his fever?
He's burning hot to the touch.
Yes.
He's soaking wet with perspiration.
Yes.
And there's a raspy sound when he breathes.
A raspy sound, you say?
Also, as a last little thing on the whole mishmash in who the target demographic is, I'm going to show some sentences without context along with an unrelated picture, so you can really get a feeling of how the tone and seemingly targeted audience switches and changes.
If and you ain't the granddaddy of all liars, the little critters of nature, they don't know that they're ugly. That's very funny. A fly marrying a bumblebee. I told you I'd shoot, but you didn't believe me. Why didn't you believe me? Happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, 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 joy, joy, joy.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
In the end, the writing of Cloudscratcher is great, and especially if you're one of the people who can leave your maturity at the door but still within arm's reach. It first really hit its stride near page 250, but from there it goes strong with cool action, hilarious jokes, and a heartwarming adventure. It's nice to see something that's not so edgy, grim, dark, and sexual, but rather something everyone can enjoy.
It's good. It's flawed, but it's good.
There's something about the art I don't really get. Like, it's really good, but there's something about it that I don't really like. And here's the worst thing, I can't for the life of me pinpoint exactly what it is. When I think it's the line thickness not varying, I squint and see that it does indeed vary. When I think it's the shading, I take an extra look and see the shading is fine. I wonder if it's the background, but then notice it's fine as well. What took me the longest about this entire review was finding out what it was about the art that I disliked, and the answer is that it's just not enough. Let me explain it with this scene here. Our heroes and a guest arrive to Phillipsburg, the capital of the cats in the Cloudscratcher world, and we get the first real shot of Phillipsburg. After having it hyped up, and it's this. Like, it's fine, but it's not exactly awe-inspiring, which is what I think is supposed to be the case. Cloudscratcher has a lot of really cool stuff, but that's about it. As weird as that may sound. In lack of better comparisons, it reminds me of House Pets, where Cody just did what had to be done and that was it. It never really feels like anything was challenged. It was done and that was it.
Like, you can't honestly say it's not good, but you can't really say it's amazing either.
Also, Cody is a huge music buff. Heck, one of the very first things we talked about after the initial podcast we did together was music, and Cody has done a great job in suggesting me music, whether it being rock and roll, hip hop, or electronic music. As a result of this, many of his chapter drawings are homages to various album covers and music posters, which is really cool. But it makes you wonder what it has to do with this comic. Plus, some of the albums aren't exactly something I'd expect a child to know. Like, I don't honestly think a child who'd watch Chip and Dale or Tailspin would listen to Tech 9.
I like fire on my skin, blood on my drawers, from up in the walls. I'm suffering, I'm stuck in the claws, stuffed in her jaws, huffing and puffing, hollering at my dog. Afterwards I like really hot, scalding water on my balls.
Honestly, the album cover thing is a thing I really love, and I think it's a really cool idea for a different comic. It's not a case of this tonal schizophrenia, where I'm starting to ponder who exactly the comic is for. It more than anything just feels that these album cover homages are for Cody and few others, but to be fair, this is something Cody addresses himself in the FAQ of the comic, and he does state it is indeed something mostly for him, which I can appreciate.
And you know what? That's fine. I just feel it worked better in a different comic, but that's entirely on me.
I really do appreciate Cody's artistic style. It's cute, it's easily recognizable, and my god does he put work in there on some of these pages with both backgrounds, colors and shading and effects. While the style is minimalistic, Cody knows how to set a scene and make sure the reader follows along, which is a hard thing to do sometimes, especially when it's heart pounding like this. Cody also doesn't do a Philip Brown, or as I like to call it, a 4-piece meal, which is either seeing a character from the front, the left, the right or the back. We get different angles, poses, and it's all very fluid and energetic, which is the kind of energy that I feel the writing missed. If I imagine this as one of the cartoons this comic is made to be like, I can imagine you'd get more out of the characters from how they are moving and portrayed on the screen, and you'll just kinda mute out what they're talking about. There are a few instances, however, where the presentation is a little off, and again it comes down to the whole underwhelming thing. Like, you have a character with Hercule strength and you see her throw a big iron door across the room into a bunch of henchmen. And it's super cool, but it's this very sterile shot. Like, yeah, the door flies, but you don't get a sense of mass, weight and force. This could be done by showing the destruction it causes when colliding with the environment. An action such as this is first really validated when you see the effect it has. Like the Kamehameha that Goku does at one point doesn't have to pierce through the moon, but it does to really nail home how powerful and big the beam is.
It's the small things. If you can call blowing up the moon a small thing, that is.
Most of the negative stuff I can say about Cody's art in the end comes down to nitpicky stuff, and even more of it is purely just my personal taste and straight up doing stuff wrong.
What are you doing, Cello?
Stuff such as the pig people's snout being oddly tiny and oddly cylinder shaped, or the fact that this guy's scar half the time looks like it's poking out rather than going into his skin. Really, there's a few major things about this comic's art that's wrong, but there are also a lot of small things that could do with some tweaking. I think what I like the most about this comic's art is its designs. The characters have just the right amount of cartoon feel to them to escape being the typical fetishist furry characters, but rather anthropomorphic cartoon characters, which, coming off comics such as Yosh and other comics we'll be covering in the near future, is a nice change of pace. Cloudscratcher also has a thing that I love about these comics with anthropomorphic characters, and it's the adaptation to their diet, way of living and body structures. Like, it's a small thing, but when they had to accommodate a feline t-shirt so a snake could wear it, I did a small fist pump. I don't know, I just love cute little things like that.
What? I got a soft side. You know, behind the screaming and the name calling. And the constant stream of swear words.
A thing I love about Cody's designs is how simple yet recognizable they are. Much like Balls to Death, the characters are recognized by their simplicity, and it shows a sort of confidence in the designs that people should strive to have. Again, like I did with my Balls to Death review, I need to compare these designs to Nomura's designs in games such as Final Fantasy. Fucking look at this garbage. I've never seen anything this terrible. There's no confidence in this at all. It feels like someone just threw a bunch of things on one character hoping it appealed to someone. I could never imagine anyone wearing this shit for practical uses. It's like the people who are like, this is my persona and his name is Calfarion and he has a demon wing and an angel wing and a tattoo that glows and a red eye and a green eye and he has a red tiger and he has black stripes that look like tribal tattoos and he wears jeans and a vest and he has a mask on that's also black and red and he has a gun that shoots hellfire and he has a cock that's 18 inches long.
I have spoken to people like this. This is a real thing.
Cody and Luke are however confident that you can easily tell who the characters are from how they're made and how they act. I'm reminded of a kung fu movie where you have the beginners flailing their arms around and doing all these wide motions, while the master will just barely dodge and do only the needed movement to strike. The fat's been trimmed and it shows an understanding of what you're doing. Everything else feels like distractions. Like, the Warcraft story is fucking garbage, but because it has pretty colors and great sound design, people are more willing to go, ooh, look at that! It's weird, but much like in the writing, the art first really starts to come together near the 250 pages, where the best character in the entire thing is introduced, Wolfsbane. His over-exaggerated postures while he's talking, the silly and goofy looking goon he has, the weaponry and even the comedic framing of the shots is freaking stellar. I rarely laugh when reading these things to myself, but some of this had me honestly giggling to myself. It feels like it was at this point that it really just clicked for Cody and the comic got much better as a result of that. Much like a teenage boy becoming a man, this comic feels like it finally figured out what exactly it wanted to be and who to appeal to.
Also, just throwing this out there, I want this shit framed on my wall. For some reason that shit just makes me laugh every goddamn time.
The art of Cloudscratcher is definitely its strongest point. It's not without flaws, but it's to the point where you can kind of forgive them, because they are mostly in the action scenes. Cody has a knack for keeping the audience following along, which is typically the first issue other artists have when making action scenes. However, the fights like we covered before seem pretty sterile. We've talked about it before, but the use of your frames can expertly show the energy and flow of your scenes. My favorite example that I constantly use is stuff where the frame wall is also a wall in the universe of the comic, and it actively gets broken through. Or if you got a frame and your character or part of the environment or even bullets or something pokes out of the frame, it gives a sense of energy. Like it's literally bursting out from the frame because it can't be contained. Now, don't get me wrong, we've seen other artists do much worse fight scenes, and Cody definitely gets props for making it so the reader can easily follow along despite using a bunch of different angles to show movement and speed. But it just needs that little extra in scenes such as this where Ixia is kicking a drill, and even though she could have been shown kicking in the direction of the robot's arm that gets cut off from this, the trajectory of the drill is way off target.
Like I said, there's not really that many big problems, but there's enough small ones that it became a small nitpicky pet peeve of mine here and there.
Also, I'd hate myself for not talking about the webpage Cody is hosting his comic on. It's freaking great. It's nice and simple and easy to navigate. I love the kind of propaganda-esque look in the background and the planes. The blue color is easy on the eyes and doesn't detract from anything. Also, all the things on the sitemap are easy to understand and follow, and when you click on them, you're rewarded with a small picture relating to the thing you clicked on, such as Ixia looking at a picture in gallery and Ixia reading a book in archive. Also, after Yosh, I think I've gotten a whole new appreciation for a well-executed archive, and this one is super easy to follow. And lastly, the character gallery has all the characters' art, and when you click on it, you get a cool little pop-up of the characters. The Cloudscratcher crew has this white and blue thing that looks like a postcard. The Serpents looks like it's on some kind of computer. And then others is just a red version of the Cloudscratcher one. I love this. It makes it a trip to look at.
Maybe it's just me, but I just love extra little things like this. It shows care and passion rather than, okay Billy, get the page out of the door, fucking go, go, go!
Okay, so right off the bat, I'm loving these characters. Or rather, I'm both loving them, and there are some that are the most forgettable characters ever. But let's just start out with giving them the praise they deserve. First of all, these are characters. They are three-dimensional personas walking around and doing stuff. They all have quirks and traits, things they're good at, things they're not good at, things they like, things they dislike. They're not just mate fetish, this dude I know, look at his cool jacket, and D-cups. Cody has, within a relatively small amount of pages, already given us the readers a great idea of what to expect and not to expect from our characters, and their circumventing of their shortcomings is as of such a feat we can appreciate and cheer on.
In Invisible Ink, you hear a lot about how a character should go through some transformation through the story, or at least bring attention to when they don't. But we can't really see this transformation if we don't know what they were like before.
So we got a lot to cover, so let's just start from the get-go. First of all, we got the protagonist, Felix. Felix is a young, energetic and jolly ball of fur who also happens to be a genius mechanic who can dismantle and build anything in a matter of minutes. Besides being a little awkward, I can however not see any real faults with him, which would be nice to see. Like even in fights he seems to be as battle-hardened as everyone else on the crew, despite being just a boy with a spanner. I mean, heck, he even boldly takes on a fully armed pirate at one point with no hesitation.
Also makes you wonder why this boy can do it, but the other adults in the restaurant couldn't. But hey, cartoons!
Next up is Ixia, the other protagonist of this comic. Ixia is, as you might be able to tell, a serpent, so she obviously is the enemy. However, we first meet her when she's defected from the serpent military to help Cloudscratcher in foiling the attack on the cat capital. We see from very early on that despite having the skills, body and mindset of a super soldier that has been injected with serum and been through a hellish boot camp, she's still wanting to just be a normal little girl. She's also very mature for her age and shoulders prejudice and responsibility really well. I don't really got anything to complain about with Ixia. She's cute as a button and a great character.
Well, maybe that's the fact that she can easily grab fired machine gun bullets with her fingers, but instead of doing that when being held at gunpoint, she has the most stupid way to escape ever. Yes, I'm still super butthurt over that.
The captain is the captain of the Cloudscratcher.
Wow, grade A script writing there, Riser.
The captain works as the dad of Felix and seems to be doing a decent job of that. He's a very respected officer of the Canine Nation Air Force, and it goes to show. Mostly because he never really seems to get out of his uniform. He always seems to be a step in front of most, and his planning is simple yet efficient, which I like. It's always pretty natural and you can follow along with his logic, unlike some other comics where a bunch of bullshit happens and then Batman comes out and is like,
"Huh, all according to Keikaku. I'm Batman."
Alice Harbour is usually the straight man of the crew, as she seems to be the one who's keeping her head down and most logical at times, though she proves to be a force to be reckoned with herself. I will say though that this is about all I got for her. Like she's there, but it doesn't fully feel like she's had the time to shine. She also works as Ixia and Felix's teacher, which serves as a great way to teach the reader about the lore of the universe, cause these are kids, one of which has been living in like a North Korean-esque solitude war country. It makes sense they don't know anything about the world.
But other than that, it's mostly, hey, Wolf Girl is here! That's nice!
I'm just gonna lump these two in with one another because we haven't really seen much of them, but the star pilots of the Cloudscratcher are Bert and Jack. Like I said, they haven't really had much time to shine outside of being really skilled pilots, and Jack's a prissy little cunt. Though I can say that I like Bert's go-get-em attitude. Like it seems only a very few amount of things can get this dude down. And then in the opposite side of the spectrum you got Jack who'll scream at the top of his lungs at Borsax in mid-combat, over gunfire, and propeller noises.
He must yell louder than me when I confront Leslinda's plot holes. And my god, do I yell loudly.
Next up we have Bucket of Paint. The big sister character Delia. I have basically given you her entire persona with just saying big sister. I get that most of the story follows other characters, even going into the Serpent Kingdom to talk about those rather than the Cloudscratcher crew, but thus far the only thing I got from Delia is that she's acting like the big sis character to Felix and Ixia, and while it's cute, she's either a horrible oversight in terms of character depth, or she just hasn't gotten a chance to shine yet.
Whatever it is, right now she's got about as much depth as a Yosh character.
And lastly on the Cloudscratcher crew we got Sally, the coolest bovine in the world.
Bull I eat a dick!
The incredibly lovable Sagat, and the actual real head mechanic of the Cloudscratcher, Scotty. I love these three. I love that Sally is so headstrong and happy, like you can almost feel the Southern-esque sun just beaming off of her, in her attitude, speech and behavior. That, and you can instantly win me over with a character who can slap you like
X gon' give it to you. Fuck, wait for you to get it on your own. X gon' deliver to you.
Sagat has everything that should make him my least favorite character, but you stay in the shame corner, Delia! Sagat is actually tons of fun, most of all because he's just so nice, and seeing him flipping his shit over what's basically cheesy pops is like the greatest thing ever. I however do keep waiting for him to turn on the crew, but thus far there's been no indication of that. And lastly there's Scotty, and maybe it's because I had this kind of dog before, rest in peace Oscar, but he just immediately found a place in that dark lump of coal I call a heart. Like, he seems to know what he's doing, but he still lets Felix just go nuts with his own stuff, and encourages the boy to expand his own horizons. It's great to see and gives you a good insight into his character being this kinda happy jolly guy. Plus, the typical schnauzer beard goes excellently with him being an older man.
Really, besides Delia, these are characters that are easily recognizable, fun to follow and very different. There's personalities rather than vehicles, you know?
Now, it's not just the Cloudscratcher crew that has a prominent appearance in Cloudscratcher. Actually, the comic also follows the villains of the story rather closely, and you can't say villain without saying Borsax. I freaking love Borsax. He's so over the top, it's amazing. He's the perfect sign of someone knowing tropes and embracing them for the sake of making a villain cartoonishly evil. We got the scars, the cigars, the big bulky build, the eye patch, and even the stuff he says is perfectly silly. I also love how when he gets really upset, his tail starts shaking like crazy. It's things like this that makes me appreciate anthropomorphic characters in comics.
Borsax is a perfect fit into a cartoon comic like this, and while he may be a little simple, he's flawlessly executed.
Next up is Nogos, and I kinda like this dude cause he seems to be your typical dad who just wants the best for his kids, but through this, gets put in really shitty situations. Every time you see this guy getting thrown an olive branch, you're immediately happy cause he's so easily relatable. You just wanna find out what's going on, and we usually get the story about the evil serpent military through his discoveries. Which again makes the Black Serpent seems redundant almost, if not solely, for establishing him as a character before he teams up with Nogos.
Now there's only really two more characters I want to cover before I gotta bitch some more, so to cleanse your palate let me just further gush about how amazing these characters are.
The first of these characters is the quote-unquote main villain of the story, Agothoth. This guy. Now this is how I like my psychotic evil villains. As nice and well spoken as any dude you'll find when walking out through your door. Agothoth here is one of the most threatening characters I've seen in a webcomic, and he does so with a happy-go-lucky attitude and a constant friendly smile on his face. Agothoth is a testament to Cody's great skill in writing dialogue, cause everything he does and says can on one hand seem friendly and welcoming, but when looked closer upon is the most in-your-face threatening intimidation you'll hear in a long while. That mixed with the fact that he is the leading weapons developer of the Serpent Army, and you usually see him in casual clothes, but with a familiar jacket most of the time, it really clouds this pretty down-to-earth guy in a shroud of mystery, and I really adore that.
Villains can be hard to get right, and I think when you can make a villain likable or at least empathetic, you've done a great job.
And lastly, the one, the only, the best character bar none in the entire comic of great characters is Wolfsbane. Wolfsbane is this feared and gruesome sky pirate, and I swear to God, every time this guy showed up I was clapping in my small bony hands in excitement. And I can answer you exactly why by taking one last jab at the whole writing thing being slow and monotone. When you have this dialogue in a cartoon that's mostly just characters sitting around and talking, when you have a guy like Wolfsbane who has so much energy, so much movement and so much charm, it freaking skyrockets in comparison. Having a character sitting still, talking about politics, and then going straight from that to a guy doing sick JoJo poses with hilariously written dialogue and ping-ponging between him and his crewmen, and Wolfsbane becomes an instantly lovable character. Plus, like stated before, his chemistry with his crew, which are all cheekily named after musicians and rap groups, and most of the time less than your most efficient goons, is comedy gold.
Wolfsbane and his introduction is where the comic just kinda clicked for me. The energy, the humor, and the action, it was all just bundled together in a nice ball of
This is delicious!
Now, there is one thing, one major ass blaster of a problem I have with the characters in general, and it has to do with the serpents. It is a minor point, but it's a point nevertheless. I am all for fantasy names. Or actually, I hate like 95% of them, cause most of them determine the person's job way before they get the job. Like fucking Arturus stab old women in the neck, or shit like that. But yeah, I'm willing to admit that's my own personal gripe, and it's not really a problem per se. What is a problem is when I'm close to breaking my jaw pronouncing characters' names. Now, I'm okay with having exotic and different names for different species, and I do appreciate that the serpents' names typically have a more common usage of X's, Z's, and the TH sound. But that doesn't mean I necessarily think they're good names. Success, Ulawak, Umov, even Agathoth, yeah. Like, is it just me, or are these names incredibly hard to remember, let alone pronounce? I don't necessarily want them all to be called Bimmy and Jimmy or whatever, but at least give me some resemblances of a name I can remember. Saying these names out loud just feels odd and unnatural. Heck, half of the time I was trying to move the letters around or read it backwards to see if it was like a cheeky Easter egg name like Phoenix Wright, but the only thing I got was that maybe Umov was a shortening of you motherfucker, but that's a leap and a half. Now, names such as Ixia or Nyx are fine, and they both got an X in the names, but they're also easy to remember. If you ask me in a month what the names of that guy is, I'll be hard pressed to have an answer for you.
I don't know whether or not this is a personal thing or an actual problem, so let me know what you think in the comment section down below. All I can really say is that it really just doesn't sit well with me.
Also, this is our last little thing, but during writing this part of the review, I was going through the character page of the comic to get the names right, and I found that the captain of the Cloudscratcher is just called the Captain. I asked Cody whether or not I was just a stupid idiot who couldn't find his name anywhere, but sure enough, it's a secret. Why? Like, from everything Cody said, it sounds like he knows what he's doing in terms of setup and reveal and stuff, but why don't we know his name? Does the people on board the ship know it? If so, why don't we? If not, why isn't this addressed? It seems odd to have this to be a thing, especially seeing they'd have to address each other at some point. Are they just always calling him Captain? Like, even when we are not seeing them? Did no one think this was kinda weird? Would you follow a guy who didn't tell you his name?
Like I said, it's a super minor point, and Cody will probably blow my asshole wide open with the reveal later. But it's not like that has ever stopped me before!
The writing is a 7. This is a good ass funny comic that's a good solid read. It doesn't try to be more than it is, and it works in its favor. There are signs of Cody being a good writer, but there's also a lot of small mistakes that kinda come together to make it a reading experience that could do to be improved. The art is a 7. It's rare that you get an artist who can make a good fight scene that's easy to follow, but Cody has that down to a science. The art is really pretty, but it falls on the sorta underwhelming side of the spectrum. It's right up there almost being an 8, it just needs that little extra oomph. The characters are an 8. Good, very solid, very memorable, and very lovable characters. These guys are some I'll probably be remembering all in the same vein as the characters from Dreamkeepers. Characters that just works. And the more we get to see Wolfsbane, the better. All in all, this comic is a big 7. Again, just coming up short of an 8. It's funny, it's entertaining, it looks good, and it's interesting. It's just a shame that's about all it is. But it really feels like Cody's found its footing now, and it's about to get even better. I'll definitely return to it later, and you should give it a look.
Cloudscratcher is a great read, and a very welcome one at that. In today's comics you always just see sex, furries, fantasy, sex, politics, sex, action, sex, video games, more sex, more furries, politics, what's my gender, horror, zombies, and some idiot who doesn't know anything about psychology or glorifying some kind of mental illness. So, Cloudscratcher is a very welcome read. I'll see you guys in the next webcomic relief. Take care till next time.
Hello and thank you for watching this episode of the Webcomic Relief, which will be the last one I ever make as a 27-year-old. Woo! It's my birthday! But yeah, I kind of think like if I ever have any announcements, I will put them here, so you have even more of an incentive to stay after the credits. And for now, well, you probably already saw it in the credits, but we now have a Discord chat. There will be a link in the description. Please do come and join. It is for people who, you know, just want to talk with other people who are still, you know, interested in the same medium. You can talk about art, writing, share thoughts, push your streams. If anyone has any kind of commission thing they wanna, you know, boost, you can do that there as well. And you get to shoot the shit with me and a bunch of other people, for example all the people from the Yellow Cartello. And you also get to, you know, be there when the Yellow Cartello is going live and share your work there. Like it's just, you know, like a small little group where the Webcomic Relief community can stay and talk among ourselves. So please do go and check it out and be sure to read the rules so everyone can get along. This episode has been sponsored by a bunch of amazing people, so you know the drill. Let's get started. CloudyDaze. CloudyDaze wants me to push the Maple Weapon Collab free that he is a part of, where he and a bunch of other animators beat up a sandbag with the weapons from the game. It should be released sometime soon, so keep your eyes open. Amocin. Amocin is working on a comic called Druids, which is a mature themed fantasy comic in the world of Warcraft. If you're interested in a more mature story from that world, check it out. Aiden Baumann. Aiden wants me to push a comic called Flowerpot, which is a comic about an outbreak of a sickness called Fleurine that causes flowers to grow in your body. You like The Last of Us? Then check this one out. Jordan Burke.
Jordan wants me to push the fanfic called The Adventure Auditions. It is the first of a possible series in which Ed, and Eddie decide to write an adventure novel, but their quest for material turns into a journey where they learn who they truly are and what they are capable of. Nana Newcomb. Nana wants me to push the webcomic called Blackbird, which is a very mature and very fresh blow of air in the whole superhero scene, done by an incredibly passionate fan of the superhero comic medium. If you want to see a passion project about superheroes, go check out Blackbird. Nicholas Knudsen. Nicholas doesn't want me to push anything, so for now just know that he is the realest OG, just like as he was last time. Hitori the Artist. Hitori is working on a new fantasy comic. It's a comic about furries, magic, steampunk and a multiverse. Get ready, cause this is probably gonna be amazing. Alex J. Alex J is working on Death's My Bitch. Teddy finds himself in an awkward position when he accidentally kills the Grim Reaper and has to take up the office of Death. Now the new Death, he finds out that the Grim Reapers are more human than he thought. Megan Smith. Megan is working on a webcomic called 8World, which takes a completely different spin on the whole destined lovers trope. Trust me, you've never seen a romance quite like this. Lorayo-kun. Lorayo-kun, my good friend, is working on the adult webcomic called Yav, which is taking a different spin on romance and other very mature themes. It's a furry comic made by a master in the craft. Go check it out. Kathy Catlin. Kathy is working on Alien Shores, which is a webcomic about a young man facing indecisions about his future, the friends he makes, and the trials life throws at them as they try to become successful rock musicians, from parental disapproval to attempted murder. Shane Asher. Shane is working on the webcomic called Strays of Terraria. This comic tickles a personal fancy of mine, which is a superhero comic with anthropomorphic characters. If you like what Cloudscratcher had to offer, this will probably be right up your alley as well. It's a comic with a lot of charm, so check it out. Samantha Shakespeare. Samantha is working on a webcomic known as Champions of Siphon. A group of heroes are destined to defeat an evil tyrant, but they can never get along with each other. It's available to read on Taptastic, Tumblr, and DeviantArt, and is always open for feedback. Please go check it out. And I also just want to give a huge shout out to Sebastian Vanborg, Thomas Nostar, Shiv, Scott Fraser, Iaika, Joe Barber, and Drika of Adrian. And also a super huge thank you to all the lovely people that you're seeing right here. If you want to support the show, change my life and make it so I can live off of YouTube and entertain people, please go to my Patreon. Here you can donate anything you want every month and you will get a ton of awesome rewards for it. Just go to www.patreon.com/riser with 2 eyes. You can also go to TeePublic and get your hands on some of the new webcomic relief merch. The link is in the description. If you don't want to support the show financially, at least think about liking the video, subscribing to the channel, or sharing your favorite webcomic relief episode with your friends. I'll see you guys in the next webcomic relief. Take care.